In this lesson, you will learn how to use one of the most popular and most helpful statistical tests in business research. The one-group t-test for the mean. The formula for the one-group t-test is as follows. Where x bar is the sample mean, s square is the sample variance, n is the sample size, mu is the specified population mean, and t is a student t-quantile with n-1 degrees of freedom. Alternatively, this formula asks you to take the mean and subtract the population mean from it, and then divide the answer by the standard error of the mean. The standard error of the mean equals the standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size. Hypothesis testing using the one-group t-test. This test will test a null hypothesis that the population mean is equal to given value. Before you can try out your Excel skills on the one-group t-test, you need to learn the basic steps of hypothesis testing for the statistical test, which we have discussed in Lesson 1. Please refer to Lesson 1 if you are not familiar with it. There are 6 steps in this process as shown in here. Step 1. State the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. If you are using numerical scales in your survey, you need to remember that these hypotheses refer to the middle of the numerical scale. For example, if you are using 7-point scales with 1 equals poor and 7 equals excellent, these hypotheses would refer to the middle of these scales and would be: null hypothesis H0 is mu equals 4. Alternate hypothesis is H1. Mu not equal to 4. Step 2. Select the appropriate statistical test. In this lesson we will be studying the one-group t-test, and so we will select that test. Step 3. Decide on indecision rule for the one-group t-test. Firstly, if the absolute value of t is less than the critical value of t, accept the null hypothesis. Secondly, if the absolute value of t is greater than the critical value of t, reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternate hypothesis. You are probably saying to yourself, that sounds fine, but how do I find the absolute value of t? This becomes important when you are using the t-table, which you can find in Times, the course website, or any statistical textbooks. Here, this is the simplified version which I have cut from t-table. Step 4. Calculate the formula for the one-group t-test. First, take the sample mean in your research study and subtract the population mean from it. Remember that the population mean for a study involving numerical rating scales is the middle number in the scale. Secondly, then take your answer from the above step, and divide your answer by the standard error of the mean for your research study. You will remember that you learned how to find the standard error of the mean in Lesson 1. Next step. The number you get after you complete the above step is the value for t that results when you use the formula stated earlier. Step 5. State the result of your statistical test. There are 2 possible results when you use the one-group t-test. Since the absolute value of t that you found in the t-test formula is less than the critical value in t-table, you accept the null hypothesis. Or, since the absolute value of t that you found in the t-test formula is greater than the critical value in t-table, you reject the null hypothesis, and accept the alternate hypothesis. Step 6. State the conclusion of your statistical test in plain English. In practice, this is more difficult than it sounds because you are trying to summarize the result of your statistical test in simple English. That is both concise and accurate so that someone who has never had a statistics course can understand the result of your test. Let's give this a try. Suppose that you have been hired as a statistical consultant by Marriott Hotel to analyze the data from a guest satisfaction survey that they give to all customers, to determine the degree of satisfaction of these customers for various activities of the hotel. The survey contains a number of items, but suppose item is the one as shown here. Suppose that the hypothetical data for survey from last week at the Marriott Hotel were based on a sample size of 124 guests, who had a mean score on this item of 6.58. and a standard deviation on this item of 2.44. In the 10-point scale in this example, the middle of the scale is 5.5 since 5 numbers are below 5.5, that is, from 1 to 5, and 5 numbers are above 5.5, that is, from 6 to 10. Therefore, the hypotheses for this rating scale item are shown here. Create an Excel spreadsheet with the following information, and key in into the worksheet. Take your time to type in the data as requested. After you have completed the entering of data, your worksheet should look like this. Continue type in the following to compute standard error, critical t-value and t-test result. Let's go to the t-table, and obtain the critical value. The sample size is 124, therefore, we look at the value at infinity. The corresponding t-value in this case is 1.96. Now, let's see if you have learned something from Lesson 1. Continue type in the following, in cell D26, compute the standard error using the formula in Lesson 1. In cell D29, find the critical t-value of t in the t-table, which is 1.96 as demonstrated just now. After this, we enter the following formula in cell D32 to find the t-test result, equals D20 minus 5.5 and divide by D26. Now, write the following sentence in D36-D39 to summarize the result of the t-test. Since the absolute value of t of 4.93 is greater than the critical t of 1.96, we reject the null hypothesis and accept the research hypothesis. The final look of the worksheet should be like this. I hope you enjoy this lesson. Goodbye until we meet again.